The voicemail was only 18 seconds long, 18 seconds that turned an ordinary missing person report into a case that seasoned investigators refused to discuss without lowering their voices. When her mother first listened to it, she thought her daughter was crying. But when detectives replayed it through enhanced audio, they realized it wasn't crying at all. It was whispering, frantic, terrified whispering, and behind it, something else. A sound no one could identify. A sound no one wanted to identify. Her final voicemail arrived at 11:40 p.m. By midnight, she had vanished without a trace. No broken glass, no struggle, no footprints, just the voicemail left like a message from a place she should never have been. And now, the only people trying to piece together what happened that night were investigators forced to listen to her final recorded seconds over and over again, hoping the answers were hidden somewhere inside the static. Detective Mariah Jensen had handled dozens of missing person cases, but something about Emily Carter's disappearance felt different from the moment she pressed play on the voicemail. The message was only 19 seconds long, yet every breath, every tremble in the girl's voice carried the weight of something dark, something no one could identify. Emily's mother had come into the station that morning clutching her daughter's phone like it was the last piece of her soul. "Please," she whispered, "just listen to what she sent me before she vanished." Mariah placed the phone on the desk, hit play, and leaned in. At first, she heard only a soft rushing sound, maybe from outside a car window. Then came a shaky whisper, "Mom, if anything happens, I didn't mean to." Static swallowed the next part. A sudden gasp followed. Something or someone was definitely with her. Then a low, muffled noise, a thud. And finally, "Mom, please, the message ended. 19 seconds. 19 seconds that made less sense the more Mariah replayed them. When Emily's car was found abandoned near the Old Pine Ridge Service Road, investigators first assumed it was a simple breakdown. But the keys were missing, her bag was gone, and there were footprints, multiple sets leading into the thick woods. It was a place where people went to disappear, where cell service dropped instantly, and where every sound echoed twice. Witnesses claimed they had seen Emily earlier that evening at a nearby gas station, looking pale, checking over her shoulder repeatedly. The cashier remembered her dropping her credit card twice. She was scared of something, he recalled. Like she thought someone was following her, Mariah stood by Emily's car now, staring at the dense forest stretching beyond the guardrail. The temperature was dropping, and wind rattled the branches above her head like bony fingers tapping for attention. Something about the scene felt staged, deliberately left behind. As if whoever took Emily wanted them to find this spot. Wanted them to start here. The detective took a slow breath. The voicemail echoed again in her mind. That gasp. That thud. That unfinished sentence. He's what? He's coming. He's here. He's not who you think. There were too many possibilities, and none of them pointed to Emily leaving of her own free will. Mariah clicked on her flashlight and studied the ground near the tree line. Broken branches. Drag marks. A partial shoe print. She knelt down, tracing her fingers along the imprint. Emily's size, maybe. But the other print much larger, pressed deeper into the soil. She took a photo, labeling it, marking the positions. Just then, a rustle sounded deeper in the woods. She froze, listening. Another rustle. Something or someone was moving in their dot slowly. Almost deliberately. She motioned to the uniformed officer beside her to stay alert, then stepped forward. But the woods swallowed everything: light, sound, direction. 10 steps inside, and it felt like entering another world entirely. Her radio crackled with static. No signal. She turned around, keeping track of the path. She had no intention of going far, not until backup arrived and daylight returned. Still, she walked 10 more paces. 20. Her flashlight illuminated something hanging from a branch. She approached, heart tightening. It was a piece of fabric. Torn. Blue. The same color Emily had been wearing in the store footage from earlier that evening. Mariah bagged the evidence. The wood suddenly felt colder. Heavier. The voicemail replayed again in her mind, the breath, the panic. Whatever happened to Emily, it wasn't random. Someone knew her. Someone was with her. Someone didn't want her to speak that final sentence. And Mariah knew one thing with absolute certainty: this wasn't just a missing person case anymore. This was the beginning of something bigger, darker, and far more calculated than anyone realized. The detectives replayed the voicemail inside the evidence room as the soft tremble in her voice filled the silence. Every time the message ended, they stared at each other, unsure whether they were hearing fear or farewell. Her mother sat outside the room, clutching her daughter's sweater like a lifeline. She kept whispering that her daughter never sounded like that unless something terrible had already happened. Detective Rowan pushed the file aside and focused entirely on the recording, isolating each background sound one by one. A faint metallic clang echoed behind her words, too sharp to come from nature. He magnified the sound, filtering the static until a pattern emerged like tapping against metal. It reminded him of the inside of a car trunk, tight and hollow. Across town, her best friend replayed the voicemail on her phone, tears streaking down her face as she remembered their last conversation. She had begged her to take a cab instead of walking at night, but she had laughed it off. The investigation team canvassed the entire neighborhood, knocking door to door and showing her picture alongside a still photo of her last outfit. Most neighbors recognized her voice from the news, but none had seen her that night. A roadside camera finally picked up a blurry silhouette walking quickly across the street. She looked over her shoulder twice, as if something or someone was following her. The frame after that showed her disappearing behind a row of parked vehicles. The next frame caught a shadow, tall and broad, stepping into the same area only seconds later. Detective Rowan played the clip repeatedly, pausing at a moment where her head jerked to the left. Her expression froze with fear, lips parted as if she wanted to scream, but had no time. Search teams swept the entire block, finding nothing but an abandoned receipt caught under a bush. The timestamp on the receipt matched the time she placed the voicemail. Her brother broke down when he heard the voicemail for the first time, dropping to his knees and grabbing his face in both hands. He said she only used that tone when she thought she was being watched. Detectives expanded the search to the woods near the highway where similar disappearances had occurred. They found tire tracks deep in the mud, fresh and leading nowhere safe. A nearby hiker had reported hearing a woman's voice around the same time, soft, urgent, and suddenly cut off. He thought it was someone on a phone call until a second noise, like a car door slamming, broke the silence. Rowan followed the tracks deeper into the forest where a faint smell of burning rubber lingered. The ground was uneven, as if something heavy had been dragged briefly across the soil. Forensics collected fibers caught on a low branch, blue, thin, synthetic, matching the lining of her jacket. It proved she had been here, but not for long. At sunset, the search team gathered around as the sky turned orange and heavy with bad news. No one said it aloud, but every step pointed towards someone taking her against her will. Detective Rowan closed his notebook and stared into the darkening woods. The voicemail echoed in his ears again. Her final trembling words haunting him, "I think someone's behind me, I don't know who." The investigation shifted gears as detectives pulled records of every vehicle that matched the tire tracks found in the woods. The results narrowed to only 4 suspects, and one name immediately sent a chill through the team. Neighbors described him as a quiet man who always left his house after midnight, returning before dawn with muddy boots. His garage door remained shut at all times, even during summer heat waves. Rowan and his partner drove to the suspect's street, where porch lights flickered like dying signals. Each window of his house was covered with thick curtains, hiding whatever life or secrets lived inside. The detectives knocked on the door, hearing faint footsteps approaching before they suddenly stopped. A moment later, a voice called from inside claiming he was too sick to talk. Rowan noticed a dark smear across the doorknob, resembling dried mud mixed with something darker. It was enough to justify a warrant, but not enough to break down the door. Back at the station, the team enhanced an audio fragment from the voicemail, uncovering a faint whistle underneath her breathing. It matched the specific engine whistle of a car model registered to the suspect. Her mother begged the police to act faster, her voice cracking with fear and exhaustion. She said she had dreamed of her daughter calling out for help, trapped somewhere no one could hear. The search crew returned to the woods and discovered a torn piece of fabric snagged on a metal fence. It was the exact color of her missing scarf, the one she wore the night she vanished. Rowan's partner spotted a faint trail of crushed grass leading toward an abandoned shed hidden behind thick brush. The padlock was new, shiny, and out of place in the otherwise decayed structure. The detectives exchanged a silent nod, weapons drawn as they approached the shed slowly. Every step felt heavier, as if the woods themselves were warning them of what lay inside. A soft humming sound leaked through the wooden walls, mechanical and unsettling. Rowan pressed his ear against the door and heard what sounded like a recording playing on a loop. They cut the lock and burst inside, finding only a speaker sitting on the dirt floor. The recording played her last voicemail over and over again, echoing through the darkness. Something had been kept there recently, the air still warm and stale, as though someone had left moments before. A faint outline of footprints circled the room before disappearing out the back. Outside the shed, a small trail of blood led into the deeper part of the forest. Rowan knelt down, touching it gently and whispering that he hoped it wasn't hers. A rusted sign half buried in leaves read Old Quarry, keep out. The path beyond it sloped downward into pitch blackness. Investigators found tire marks leading toward the quarry entrance, matching the suspect's car perfectly. The deeper they went, the colder the temperature grew. At the bottom of the slope, they found a piece of her phone case cracked open. It looked like she had thrown it, maybe as a clue before being taken farther inside. Rowan clenched his jaw, knowing they were close. The voicemail played again in his mind, and now he realized the metallic clang was not from a car, it was from the quarry. The detectives replayed her voicemail again, this time isolating every background sound. A faint metallic clink echoed behind her voice, like a chain being dragged. They slowed the audio and enhanced the lower frequencies. A second voice appeared, soft, trembling, almost whispering the word run. The team froze as the realization hit them. Someone else had been with her when she recorded that last message. They cross-matched the background noise with the abandoned property recordings. The metallic sound matched the broken wind chimes found near an old shed. Detectives rushed back to the location with full search teams. They moved with a sense of urgency that hadn't been present before. Inside the shed, fresh footprints were discovered pressed into the dirt floor. They belonged to a teenager reported missing 3 weeks earlier. The discovery expanded the case instantly to missing victims now tied to the same place. The atmosphere shifted from hope to grim determination. A folded blanket lay in the corner, recently used. Investigators found strands of hair that matched both victims. On a wooden beam, they found scratched letters written by someone desperate. The scratches spelled a chilling message: "He waits until dark." The team followed the trail deeper into the woods. Branches snapped beneath their boots as tension mounted. A hidden path revealed fresh tire marks. The pattern matched a rusted truck seen in traffic cameras near the victim's neighborhood. Detectives radioed for backup and followed the tracks. The forest grew denser, shadows deepening with every step. They reached a small clearing containing an old hunting cabin. Smoke curled faintly from the chimney. The door was unlocked, swinging slightly in the breeze. Inside, the air smelled of gasoline and damp wood. A single lantern burned on a table, illuminating papers scattered everywhere. In the middle sat a broken phone. The lead detective picked it up, his hands shaking. The voicemail file was still open, paused at the last second she recorded. Then an officer noticed something behind the curtain. A trembling figure stepped out, the missing teenage boy. His face was pale, eyes wide with terror. He whispered that she had saved him. He explained how she had fought their captor, forcing him to chase her instead. She dragged him out of a locked room and yelled for him to escape. He told detectives she ran into the woods, leading the man away. Her last voicemail was recorded seconds before she disappeared into the darkness. The detectives listened silently as guilt washed over them. She had been alive when she sent that message, they just hadn't reached her in time. The boy led them to the edge of a ravine. He pointed toward the dense thicket where he had last seen her. The search team spread out with drones, thermal cameras, and dogs. Hours passed, tension rising with every minute. Near sunrise, a dog barked sharply at a cluster of rocks. Investigators rushed forward, hearts pounding. They found torn fabric from her jacket caught on a branch. The trail was still fresh. As they moved deeper, the forest floor showed signs of struggle. Footprints revealed she had been fighting until the very end. Near the riverbank, they discovered a symbol carved into a tree. It was the same marking found on the shed, proof the captor had been there. The case transformed again from a disappearance to a full manhunt. The detectives vowed not to stop until they found her. Her voicemail played in their minds as they combed the terrain. Her voice, steady but scared, now guided every move they made. They realized something powerful. She hadn't left a goodbye message, she left a trail. And the final line of her voicemail, once cryptic, now made perfect sense. If someone hears this, follow the sound. The investigators lifted their heads, listening to the rushing river. Her last clue was pointing somewhere close. The chapter closes with the sun rising, casting an orange glow over the search teams. And for the first time since the case began, they felt they were inches from the truth. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the canopy, washing the forest in a dull orange glow, soft, fragile, hopeful. Rowan stood at the riverbank, staring at the churning water as if it were speaking to him. Her final words echoed in his mind again and again. If someone hears this, follow the sound. The river wasn't just water, it was noise. Constant, roaring, unmistakable. And suddenly, it all clicked. Rowan turned sharply. Spread out along the river, he shouted. She wanted us to hear this. She wanted us to follow this exact sound. Search teams moved with renewed purpose, scanning every inch of the muddy river's edge. The boy who survived stood trembling near the tree line, whispering, she saved me, because she knew you'd come." Rowan felt a heavy ache settle in his chest. Not guilt anymore, but determination. She had left a trail of clues with the last strength she had. She fought. She survived longer than anyone in her situation could have. And she truly believed that someone would follow the message she sent. A sudden whistle cut through the forest. Short, sharp, deliberate. Rowan froze. His partner's head snapped up. The dogs barked and pulled at their leashes. Another whistle. Then a faint cry, almost swallowed by the sound of the river, but just loud enough to catch. Rowan's heart slammed in his chest as he sprinted forward, crashing through branches and thorns. The team followed, adrenaline rising like a surge of electricity. There between two large boulders lay the figure they had feared they would never find. Her clothes were torn, her hands scraped raw, her breathing shallow but steady. She was alive. Alive because she refused to give up. Alive because she trusted someone would hear her. Rowan knelt beside her, voice trembling. "We heard you, we followed the sound," her eyes fluttered open, barely focusing on him. A faint smile pulled at her lips as tears gathered. The nightmare was ending. She was going home. As medics rushed in, Rowan stood back, the weight of the past days finally lifting from his shoulders. The sun rose fully now, lighting the forest like a silent promise. Some stories end in darkness, but hers ended in dawn, and that voicemail, it wasn't a farewell, it was a map she created with courage, a map that saved them all. If you want more emotional mystery stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps bring more powerful stories to life.